that's how I'm just getting very impatient. And we keep saying, it's going to take time, but at the same time, sometimes I find the young people get sucked into that mindset once they join the big corporations. And whenever I see that, I feel like it's not going to change, even though these old guys leave. So that's what I'm very much afraid of. Any positive?
As a student of Terry Porte's school at Morgan Stanley, as a first-year student 16 years ago, I'm happy that I'm still working in Japan, that I've created 600 jobs through my company. But I think Terry's point, I totally agree with every single point. I think I'm a big fan of history, like I've talked about the U.S. history. I think Japan has only changed, the many times that it's changed, whether it was Kentoshi or Kenzushi back 1,000 years ago, or Nobunaga, evolving through the imports of guns and Meiji Restoration, or post World War II. I think this country has changed through foreign influence or through people who have seen what the future of Japan should be, whether it was in Western, or whether it was in Europe, U.S., or in like Takasugi's case, Shanghai. I think people need to see the outside world. The internet, yes, it's changing, but we have this Japanese language problem that prohibits us from seeing the real world through world media. But I think, again, education, teaching our younger Japanese to see the world. I'm part of the Ministry of Education's reform of high schools, of globalizing high schools, as well as helping the exchange program run by their new exchange program, Tobitate Japan. But I'm a big investor in education of young people. It's easier to change younger people than trying to change older people. And like what I mentioned before, hey, why does not instead of trying to change the entire landscape of employment and employment laws for people in their 30s, 40s, and even 50s and 60s who have a bigger stake in not changing, why don't we go out and go to college kids and say, or like I said before, Keidanren, and say, hey, give everyone a 1-year contract.
The future work is a word I use a lot throughout my work I do at BizReach. Looking back at not our company's journey, but my personal journey, I think is a good reflection of how I reformed myself. I actually grew up in Canada from age 6 to 13, and I had to come back to Japan because of my dad's work. So when I came back to public school or public junior high school in Shizuoka back in the 80s, man, a lot of the Japanese people smiled. It was like going to a new star in Star Trek movie. So I had to shave my head, put my name on my t-shirt with my social security number. So I asked my mom if I was a prisoner, by the way. But after going through public high school and spending 5 years in the Japanese education system, I went back to the US for college. I went to Tufts in Boston. And for me, I get this question a lot. I've always been a minority. I went to an all-Caucasian elementary school. I went to a Japanese public junior high and high school, but I wasn't Japanese inside. There's this movie, Crazy Rich Asians, right? I saw last night because I'm going to the US today to laugh about it. But, I wasn't Japanese inside at a very Japanese public school. And then I had to go back to the US to relearn, not just English, because my English had stopped at grade 7, but relearn the American culture. And it was a relearning process. It was a relearning process, throwing myself into a new environment or a new culture and trying to understand what was happening around me. After I graduated from school, I joined Morgan Stanley, and Robbie was were you a chief economist?
Yes.
Yeah, he was a chief economist and I was a financial analyst first year out of school. So this is an honor, being on the same panel with my ex-boss. But after Morgan Stanley and in the financial world, my last job, I was a founder of Japan's first expansion baseball team, the Rakuten Eagles.
not enough. Really hard.